Hello there. What is going on, everybody? We're talking today about the newly spoiled ARF Trooper expansion for Star Wars Legion. We've got a full spoiler and breakdown. We're going to go through it, give you some hot takes, show you all the stuff that you're interested in, and especially show you that Jedi, which I think is going to be the highlight of this pack. If you guys are new here to the channel, we talk a lot about Star Wars and tabletop gaming, and we'd love to have you stick around. We are also still doing that $25 Amazon gift card giveaway that's running for a few more days. You have time left to enter to win that. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. Yesterday, Atomic Mass Games dropped an article that spoiled the ARF Troopers. We got to look at the unit card. We got to look at the upgrade cards. So let's just go ahead and dive right in and take a look at these guys. They are a special forces. You're going to start with 4 miniatures in the unit. You've got 1 health, 2 courage, no offensive surge, no defensive surge, speed 2, red defensive die. They're going to have a black die for unarmed, and they're going to have a black die for ranged with a DC 15A, range 1 to 4 gun. So good long-ranged option here. They have some interesting keywords. They have Scout 1, which is always nice. Low profile will help them stay alive. Unhindered will give them some mobility. And Observe 2 is going to allow them to spend an action to drop 2 observation tokens on enemy units. So that's interesting. Now, this is not a free action for Observe 2, by the way. This is a full dedicated action, which has some folks saying, well, maybe it's not that good. And of course, it does sort of depend on how many ARF troopers you have and you know what kind of shots you're trying to do. Generally, you'd probably be better off taking an aim and shooting rather than doing, you know, an Observe 2. However, if you know, I think there's cases where you'd want to Observe 2, obviously working with Cody, but also maybe you find yourself in a situation where, you know, I got to shoot this guy. I'm definitely going to kill him. I don't need to aim, but I also want to support the next clones who are going to do something even bigger, and maybe I'm not close enough to share an aim token with them. It kind of allows them to kind of be off on their own and still help out other clones. So that could be a thing. I mean, I think you only do Observe 2 if you're shooting and observing. I don't think you would like move and observe. I just don't see, unless there's maybe only one ARF left. I think, and that's probably if you've got like just that leader left who's running around by himself. Well, then you can still observe too, which is an option. Now for upgrades, they do have the squad leader upgrade. They have the heavy upgrade, the personnel upgrade, their equipment, training, and the grenade slot. So you've got all of those things. Now grenade, and you know, so you can do a couple of different things with them. You know, they're primarily a long range unit, but grenades and scout is also a pretty cool thing. But it looks a little better when you take into consideration this little guy right here, your Jedi Guardian. Not what a lot of people were expecting, not what I was expecting exactly. The Jedi Guardian is going to be taking the squad leader upgrade at only 22 points, very cheap compared to, I think, what a lot of people's expectations were, largely because he's got some drawbacks and not other things that were expected. Like there's no force upgrade that he adds. You're not getting a force upgrade with this guy. You're not going to be able to force push. Sadly, you're not able to force throw either, which I think was something that a lot of folks may have wanted. That's something that I definitely was hoping to get a force upgrade or something like that. Maybe not a straight up force upgrade, but maybe like a command card that would like mimic, like, hey, he can do like 1 turn of force stuff during the game if you do the command card. And I think there's always the chance that they can always come back and add that at some point. But I think you know, I don't know. If it were up to me, I might want to see how they play first, of course, because I don't think AMG uses really, really big playtesting teams. I think they have, like, when I've looked in the credits, like compared to like FFGs, it seems like they use a smaller group of playtesters than FFG used to use. And so maybe they just kind of want to see how these guys shake out. I think they're going to be strong. I think they're going to be popular because even though they do have some restrictions, they are definitely offering some good things too. Let's talk about them a little bit. So they give you sidearm ranged, which means you can't shoot because they don't have a ranged weapon. So they often know they're not going to use guns. You know, they're uncivilized. But they're the leader, and they give you charge, which is an interesting choice for ARF troopers, which are, you know, range 4 kind of long range unit, but they do have scout. So again, I feel like they're kind of walking in two worlds. You can run them in multiple different ways. The lightsaber has 2 red, impact 2, and pierce 1. It's not bad. It's not the strongest lightsaber in the world, but it's also a single mini. He's just he's just like a Jedi initiate, right? So 2 red is not bad, especially considering that you're going to probably throw a couple of other blacks in there with the ARF troopers or whatever other unit you're running, right? You're going to have a fairly decent dice pool with pierce 1, and charge. That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Now the question is it good for the ARF troopers? Which seem to me like I kind of want them to sit on objectives, shoot and observe, shoot and kill something that's like wounded that we can kill, or maybe just put out some suppression and prepare for the really big shot with the observe tokens and things like that. I don't know. The other thing that's important on this particular upgrade is what it doesn't say. It says clone trooper only, special forces only, which means Special Forces Clone Trooper only, which means you can't put them in your regular clone infantry, but you can put them in your arcs, which is probably a better home for them. But there's some stuff to talk about because you're paying the cost of 22 points, which again is very low, but you're gaining charge from that. Well, the arcs already have charge, so you're not really seeing the gains in that perspective. But what are you getting outside of that? Well, you're getting a unit that's better for melee. Your Scout 2, for example, Tactical 1, for example. You're getting a more dice as your dice pool overall in melee with the DC 17s, which can be fired in melee. So a Jedi leading ARC troopers seems like a really good fit. Also, if you compare to the other squad leaders that are available at 22 and 30 points, this guy's also only 22 and gives you Pierce and gives you 2 red instead of 2 black, which the other guys would have rolled on their own. But you lose the ability to shoot at range, so that's 2 less dice, if you have to, stop and shoot at range 2 as you're trying to close the gap to make that charge move. But still, I think that's still pretty cool. I think it's not bad. I think it's not bad at all. I think ARC Troopers is going to be an excellent place for them. I think they can work in either unit, but this also allows them to go into future special forces that happen to have the squad leader upgrade, which is pretty interesting. But we have some more stuff. Going back to ARF Troopers, we have some more other upgrades to look at. Their personnel upgrade is a duo for only 26 points that adds 2 additional ARF Troopers and the Cache of Surge 1. Which is interesting, and it brings to an interesting point that why didn't maybe the Jedi have a cache? Maybe he would have had to cost a little bit more, but that would have been kind of like, like Cache Surge 1 or Cache Dodge or something like that. Would have been pretty cool, or maybe Cache Surge 2 even. It could have been a cool thing to give to an individual Jedi if you weren't going to do a command card. And we do know from the product launch page that these guys are they only come with 3 cards. 3 upgrade cards. They come with 4 cards total: the unit card and 3 upgrade cards. The 3 upgrade cards, we've seen the Jedi, we've seen the ARF Trooper duo, and then we've got the RPS 6 ARF Trooper, which does have cumbersome, which is not super great, especially when you have Scout, which means you can't use it turn 1, right? So I don't know how much I really like this one. I feel like our troopers as a whole are just okay. And this guy, he's ranged 2 to 4, cumbersome and impact 2. You're gaining 1 red, 1 white, and 1 black in his dice pool. So he's all right. But he's also only 24 points, so he's not particularly expensive. Now, the interesting thing about all 3 of these upgrades is you can run all 3 of them together in the same unit. You don't have to pick and choose which heavy. And it's interesting they've kind of gotten away from multiple heavies quite so much. They're in this case, there's a Jedi and the RPS 6, but you can run them both. So it's we're seeing more cases where you don't really have to make too many decisions on what what minis you want to bring into the unit. So that's an interesting thing. And this would put a lot of miniatures. Of course, it would be expensive too, but you'd have 8 miniatures. if you ran everything in one ARF Trooper unit, which is a lot of health, too, which I guess counts for something if you're bringing the Jedi and you're bringing all of them. That is 8 health. So that's, that does count. That's going to be able to have Pierce 1 like the whole time until they're dead. So that's a thing to think about, too. Could be a big tanky unit. And it's weird, that they could be a tanky unit. They could be a ranged unit. They could be a melee chasing charge unit. Or, or just, I'm just going to sit on this, control point and you can't take me out, because this is also rolling red defense too. So that's pretty interesting. There's another thing I want to talk about, and that's different things that might work with the ARF Trooper units. So, talking about Observe, I mentioned this briefly, but they probably have a place in a Commander Cody army. Again, I talked about cases where you'd want to Observe. If you're running Commander Cody and you've got that 1 and 3 pip that give everybody bonuses if they're attacking people with observation tokens, that is clearly an exception to if you're observing, I hope you're shooting also, or observe isn't as good as just aiming would be, and all these other things. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It kind of depends, because it depends what you're wanting to share with other people. Generally, though, observe is, you put it out there. If you happen to roll all hits, well, then the observe tokens remain. So I can see observe and shoot as a common thing, but also observe lets you gain the benefits of Cody's command cards. So, and not relying on Cody being the only person to be able to do the observing. It means that Cody doesn't have to be, doesn't have to go first and do the observing and drop those tokens out there. It means you have a lot of other options. I could see people wanting to buy a couple of ARF Troopers, not just for the ARF Troopers, but also for the Jedi. Another thing about ARF Troopers is they could be a new home for Echo, which is another interesting option. Echo, I feel like he fits in there quite well. Now, obviously, he's expensive. This could also bring you up to 9 health, right? If you're also running the Jedi, you'd have to pick which one, because I think you can have 2 leaders, but you just have to. You can only one actually can be the leader, or I'll have to look that up again. Or I'm sure you guys in the comments are going to let me know, because there's a rule about having more than one leader, because you're not actually going to have more than one leader. I think you can only equip 1 leader, so I don't think that would actually bring you to 9 health. But let me know if I'm wrong. but either way, look, I think Echo synergizes really well with the ARC Trooper, or ARF Trooper unit. I keep saying ARC Trooper. And again, he can go in them because they happen to be a clone trooper unit, and they happen to be special forces. He would also take up the leader position. He'd give them reliable 1, which is nice, and his DC 15 gives him critical 1 and lethal 1 and immune to deflect. And he has 2 health. So I think Echo certainly works there. He's like training the ARFs how to be ARCs. Here's how you turn your F into a C. You take that middle little notch and slide it all the way down and just bend the corners a little bit. And that's how you transform. If I animated things better, I would have put a little cartoon graphic of me bending an F into a C. That would have been a really cool thing. I don't know if anybody's going to clip this and be like, here, we'll do it for you. No, but seriously, no, I think Echo's a good fit. They're interesting. Here's my thoughts on after looking at the ARF Trooper unit. I think a lot of people are going to want the Jedi. He's priced extremely well, especially for granting charge, having Pierce 1, 2 red impact, and you can build him multiple ways. So I think it's going to be a very desirable miniature. I think it's going to be a very desirable game piece. And considering that you only get 1 in this box, it's going to be like, hey, I need to go buy another $50, Jedi box or what have you. So that's the my kind of take on it. And not even 50, $54.99. They're coming out in March, $54.99 for me, what will probably just be a single miniature. Obviously, you're getting more than that. I mean, ARF Troopers are okay. I personally am not crazy about the design for ARF Troopers. I'm like, okay, I can take them or leave them. But the generic Jedi is definitely desirable. You're going to be able to build him in a lot of different ways. They really only showed him in this pose that looks just like the original version of Darth Vader in this game, which makes me wonder who's behind that mask? Was it this guy all along? No, but he does kind of. Doesn't he look kind of like he's posed just like Darth Vader? But yeah, no, I see people wanting to get multiple copies of this expansion, primarily to get multiple Jedi. Now, of course, you could always just use a proxy or 3D printed Jedi or something like that, and run 3 ARC troopers or something like that. Run him in the 501st, since he's not a unique upgrade. You could also do that. There's a lot that you can do with this guy. I think he's going to be very popular, this particular miniature. I think the ARF troopers will work. I think they seem like they're solid enough. I just think that he's the star of the show, and hopefully this isn't the last opportunity to get this guy, because to me this does remind me of when FFG used to do like chase cards, when they make a game that had an expansion that had a card that you needed for something else that you'd have to buy even though you didn't want this. Now, they did this the most in X-Wing, but they did it in Armada, and they did it in the early stages of Legion a little bit also, where you had to buy something that maybe you didn't want just to get the upgrade card. Now here, if you only want to play ARC Troopers, you may have to buy this expansion even though you don't necessarily want ARFs, because you want to get, of course, the miniature and the card, right? So I feel like this is a little bit of like a chase miniature that you're like, oh, I might need to get this if I just want them to go in my ARCs. But, I mean, at least the ARF Trooper unit is, if you're playing Republic, you can still field them and everything like that. It's not exactly the same thing. I just, it's a cautionary tale. Like, I wonder how much of this we're going to see. We're going to see things, that are like, oh, I have to buy 5 of these now because I need them in all of my core units. I need 6 of these, rather, so I can go in all of my core units. Oh, this can go in B1 units. I need 8 of those for, and stuff like that. I hope they don't, use this idea and let it run away. I hope this is sort of something they kind of lock down, because fortunately it's special forces only, so that's a hard cap on how many you might want to buy. But there's definitely incentive for you to max them out and get as many as you can. So I'm not, I'm not looking forward to that. I'll probably just get 1, maybe 2, maybe proxy a few for casual games. And go from there. But that's some of my thoughts on it. The Jedi looks really cool, and the ARF Troopers seem all right as well. And again, yeah, you can pre-order these now. They're coming out March 14th, 2025. That's their estimated street date at $54.99. That's a lot. Prices keep going up, and I don't see an end in sight. May go up even more. I don't know. Hope not. But that's why I'm like, maybe I'll just get 1. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are out of this world. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you're interested in becoming a patron, check the links in the description below. And as always, may the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. And always wash your socks.